How's everybody doing? Hope everybody's doing great. And appreciate everyone who went to tap into my last video. I see a little bit of love being shown. That's how I take it. If you're watching, you're showing some love, even if you got some hate in your heart. You're still taking time out of your day to tap in with your boy. So appreciate whoever do. The psychology behind Western civilization's money. This is something that I feel that I really come to notice and pay attention to when it comes to the world that we living in. And specifically for black folks, you know, it's something that we don't understand when it comes to this game of building wealth under the system of capitalism, right? Because that's the main economic engine that is being used to run everything. There's other branches of economic systems at play, but overall, everybody is participating in capitalism. That's pretty much what is the dominant, uh, you know, economic engine. So, with that being said, we all understand, or at least we should, or actually, no, that's me being a little uh, cocky, to assume that people understand fully what capitalism is. Capitalism is private enterprise. Private enterprise means it's an economic and a political system. And, you know, it's where countries trade. Countries do a lot of trading for valuable resources, and value is limited to the perception of whatever values it. So whatever as a collective we value, that is what we will trade. We will trade for the next thing that is valuable. And it's just a trading system. So ultimately, right, all economic engines is a trading system. Do you get it? And this is something that I have been researching for some time. I've done a lot of reading, a lot of studying, and it's just like a rabbit hole. You just kind of keep getting deeper and deeper the more that you go down this path of study and wealth. And for me, that is um quite the feat for me. I didn't grow up with much education, really none at all. And you know there's really only one one destination in this system for most people like that, and that's jail. That's pretty much what jail is created for the less fortunate and oppressed. If you look at the origins of how prison became what it is, then you'll understand what I'm talking about. But that's a different video. But at the same time, when you start to talk economics, or when you talk in anything in this world, most times it leads back to power, it leads back to currency, and it leads back to value. What it is that's being traded. Information is valuable. So it's not just limited to these notes. Which I'm talking paper money. Originally it was called notes. So it's not just limited to these notes that we get our hands on, but just what you have that you can leverage, that's valuable. you know so like I said, capitalism, it's an economic and political system, and it's controlled by private owners, and those private owners control the systems of trade for profit, right? So, like I said, as a society, we find certain things valuable, and we trade it. We trade it with other things that we deem valuable. You know, and capitalism has allowed pretty much, you know, somebody either already having the resources or able to capitalize, you know, um, who's able to capitalize and take advantage of a situation. So if you see something going on in the world and it's not organized, right? Like, let's say there's something that's taking place in the world, but it's not there's no organization to it. It's just happening. It's in the early stages. It's almost like AI. It's like AI now. AI is still fresh in the game and there's not much regulation. So yeah, regulation. So there's not much regulation to in the beginning, with trade. There wasn't much regulation to it outside of just trading. Capitalism allowed you to see that and say, what if I put something in place to make trading flow like this? What if I can make trading faster? What if I can make trading um, bigger, more expansive? And that mindset and years of development of getting that system together so you can regulate a trade became what we know it as today. Trading stocks, Wall Street, and all that. You see, if you ever seen one of those Wall Street uh, offices or buildings, man, it's so much going on. There's so much going on. And that's leading back to the topic of this video, the psychology behind Western civilization's money. The psychology that I'm starting to understand about this whole system and, money as we know it today is changing yourself from who you think you are today, right? What do I mean by that? To really make it in this game and to become wealthy, I'm not going to go conspiracy, theorists on this and say you have to sell your soul. But you have to become a systems person. Your life has to become very systematic, you know. Um, and I mean down to a morning routine to a night routine, you know. You have to be very coordinated about your life, very intentional about your life. Most people, right, would agree that the Europeans control the world, right? The Europeans have heavy domination over the world, and there's some debates about China doing this thing, but ultimately, and China is doing their thing, but ultimately, right, we still know that the European influence is still at its height. It's still at the height. Um, and when you look at the European, if you look at their history, if you study anything with Europe, you'll see that they came from a lot of wars, they came from a lot of trauma, you know, they came from the cold, um, you know, wilderness, um, family, just unorthodox family dynamics, meaning like to keep royalty within the family. This person gonna sleep with that person, this that just a lot of inbred going on, inbreeding going on. And these are all facts. This is not how I feel. This is not me, just spilling out shit. Like this is all stuff that you could use Google, you use AI, you use YouTube, you go to a library, and you could look into this stuff. So their history has their own um traumas, and that inspired a lot of their systems. That inspired a lot of their systems. And one system that it inspired greatly is how we trade value, you know, because if there's one thing that I want to get through on this video is, to not think so much about the paper money, right? Because by time you manifest a lot of that paper money, it's because something inside of you systematically produced it. And that leads back to what I'm saying about, you know, their system is very systematic. Is very little humanity within it. Like genuinely, look at it. Look, if you know anything about the Constitution, you would see this. And this is, I'm not just limiting this down to, oh, what they did to black people, but I mean, like, rather, if they did this to black people or they did this to a purple community, you know, um, the origins of the Constitution was already um, born from separation. It was born from separation, declaring that, hey, this group of people uh, are not equal to this group of people. So, it already started off with not much humanity. So, was that just going to skip over anything else that the Constitution birthed? No, not at all. The Constitution birthed America, and America birthed a lot of things. It birthed the industrial age, and now is birthing the technology revolution. So the AI age. So America has birthed quite a few things. When it comes to economics and society. And when you look at the industrial age, from Rockefeller, capitalized on the railing, the trains, the train tracking system rather, um, oil, and just having his hands in a few things, the medical system, dealings with the Rothschild, all that. And again, if you don't know, please go look into all this stuff. If you genuinely want to be wealthy, if you want to be rich, then you don't need this much game. If you just want to be rich, I want to be wealthy. I want to be very wealthy. I am wealthy, and yeah. I have to get inside the minds of the people that it is that created the environment that I had to get out of. You know, and like I'm saying, the system has very little humanity in it, you know? And for a lot of people, that's something that they can adjust to, and rightfully so. You don't want to sell your humanity for anything. It's never worth it. So it's like, well, how you gonna make it? How you gonna do? What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? And that's been a question I've been asking myself. What am I going to do to really make it within this system, like how I want to make it? And that's without saying too much, because certain things is just I'm gonna grow it first before I talk too much. But I would just say this: you want to start thinking like an architect. You want to start thinking like a leader. You want to start thinking like a government. You want to start thinking like a bank. You want to start thinking like a insurance company. You want to start thinking in systems. And, you know, all those different entities that I named that are big players within this system are things that you can do in your life. You can have your economy organized. You can have your family organized. You can have your resources organized. You can manage how much risk you can take in your life. But people don't know how to manage risk. Most people are living in survival mode, and every day just feels like a risk. Every move you make feel like a risk. So how the hell am I gonna manage this when it's my whole life? I'm drowning in it. Um, and that's why we're gonna slow it down and take it back to what the title say: the psychology behind Western civilization's money. And the psychology that you want to really have within you, the understanding rather that you really want to have within you going forward, if you're really looking to become something great on your own, not just within someone else's system, but to come up within someone else's system and that birth your own. You want to understand that you have to start thinking in the terms of systems. There is nothing that we deal with in life that don't operate within systems. Nature is the most consistent when it comes to a system. You know, no one stresses about the sun coming up because we understand that it's so natural. we we understand that it's so natural that unless I die, that's the only way that I'm not going to see it. You know, and that's how you want to become. That's how you want to be in your life when it comes to everything that you govern over. And if you're a man listening to this, then you already know that this is without a doubt something that you should eagerly be focused on, and embodying. You want to think in systems. So what do that look like? That looks like studying the system that you already got going on. See, everything is a reflection of itself. So when you look at the fact that you're at a job right now that you may not want to be in, or you're in a situation where you don't want to, be at, a system is what puts you there. The habits, your thoughts, the way you move in life consistently without thinking about it is what allowed you to be in the situation that you're in today. It's called a natural system. At a certain point, I would even say that's just life. It's just life. So even if you don't do anything, if you look at a homeless person, right, that's out on the street, you know, when you take away the perspective of understanding that this person is lacking in so many resources, if you just look at it for what it is, that person is back to natural resources. They're back to sleeping outside. They're back to just wandering the streets. They're back to the most natural part of life, which is just literally existing. You understand? They're just literally existing. And that's why we treat them like that, And I say we, even though I do my best to treat them like humans, I am still guilty of walking past some like they don't exist. Especially if I'm focused and I'm trying to get somewhere or, just whatever. I can do that. I can do it. I've done it. So that's why it's so easy to do that because, they're now just existing. And the average person that's walking past, right, that's not in that predicament, even if you're living paycheck to paycheck, but you do have a home and maybe you got your spouse or whatever, you're caught up in your mind and focused on what it is that you got to get done that day. That person is just existing, which is why they have all day to sit out there and have a sign up, hey, anything helps. Just wandering, just a lot of homeless people outside of the ones that's just doped up, cracked up. They got a very calm spirit to them because, hey man, where I gotta be. My dad used to say a man with no destination is already where he's at. So I'm already where I'm supposed to be. So shit, I gotta rush. And again, leading back to the psychology behind Western civilization's money. We're rushing. Money moves fast. Money moving every day. Money moving every day. Right now, there's trillions, trillions, trillions of dollars in flow, but it's invisible. You don't see it, right? And you don't see it because you're not supposed to see it. It's not real. It's only real in our minds. It's only real with the perspective that we have on how value is traded. and what and how big that's supposed to be. Meaning, like, our perspective on what's important when it comes to this game of money shows in how fast money moves every day and where money flows. So when you look at where money flows in this world, when you look at the most concentrated areas where money flows in this world, you will start to see, like, okay, these are the main important things that society focus on. And I don't have actual statistics, but if I'm just going off of the top of my head, I would say that's religion, sports, technology, drugs, and sex. Everything else is just birthed out of that. But that's where money is concentrated at. Because after you get so much money at a point for these upper elites, right? It's not exciting anymore. And I don't mean that necessarily in a depressing way. I don't mean like, you just want to end it all. Some do, which is why, you'll see, you'll hear of highly successful people, killing themselves or going through this or going through that. It's very possible. But for the ones where that's not necessarily the case, they get into more extreme things because it's just like, well, I'm no longer in that state of rushing for money. So now they got that same calm in a way that the homeless person has. But I won't even really say a calm. I'll say a void. Because to get to that place where you pretty much have all the resources in the world, you haven't things. And you still feel that feeling of just being incomplete. You still need this like extra intensity to just feel something. Yeah, you missing something. And a lot of us are missing something. A lot of us are missing something because this system is not based on humanity. It's based on, you know, speed. It's based on speed. It's based on fear. It's based on risk management. And ultimately, it's based on creating solution systems. But because there's no humanity in this main system that we're playing in, not many people are, or maybe there are enough people looking to find solutions for humanity, but that isn't where the money is going. And that is why most people can't get wealthy, because most people want to be successful and enjoy their family. Most people want to be successful and just live life. But they don't understand that to get into this game, you have to capitalize. You got to capitalize. You got to think almost machinery in the terms of, being a machine. It has to become a game to you. Numbers and understanding, how to get this to fund this, to do that, how to get this system to produce another system, how to just keep that rolling. And again, I'm not, like I said, can you find humanity while being wealthy? Yes. But it won't be under this system, not the current system, you know, because how that's not how it was created. The constitution of this system, right? So we got the Constitution of America, but what's the constitution of this system that we're in? It's the definition of what capitalism is: private ownership for profit. And there's a very select few who's able to have private ownership over the majority of the profit that's going on around in the world because of how this system plays. The people who have private ownership over a lot of some of the most public things that we interact with every day, from grocery stores to entertainment to media like the news, um, music, the music industry, the banking, so on and so on. Is only a select few, and I don't mean like literally like just one secret family or two secret families. Like that ain't the thing no more. There are like, again, you got the Rockefellers, you got Rothschild, and for sure they're heavily ingrained, but they're now to the point where there's something else entirely. And I don't mean separated to the point of like, you know they're greater than us. I mean a separation of to understand them, right? To really like understand them and to really want to operate like them or reach their level of wealth. Um, it is thinking like pretty much what I'm speaking on in this video, systematic. Um, and I believe it. I believe it leads to the ultimate sacrifice of humanity, because the Rockefeller and the Rothschild are very aware of the world. They're very aware of the narrative that is been on their family, and yet you see very little that has been done to show their awareness of the situation, and that's because that's not where their focus lies. So you know my goal, without saying too much, is to build, you know, as a man, to be a builder, to be a leader, and to think in terms of systems. Think in terms of systems by studying what you do every day naturally, and you will start to see why you get the results that you get. And then by time it leads down to finances, you will no longer be questioning why you're poor. You'll be questioning, how have you made it so far without being aware of what you're doing? And that'll go to show you that that's because there's a higher intelligence. There's something else guiding this. But it also allows us to have the free will to have awareness, to also interact with it. We can also interact with the flow. So systems, when you are aware of a system that you design, when you have a system in place, when you no longer have to guess for the certain result that you desire, excuse me, then you're now in a place of calm. You're now in a place of control. You're now in a place of leverage. And I really want us to understand this. I'm going to stand on this. I really feel like this is what most people need to learn. Um, Going through your life having no structure, uh, is just leaving it to nature. And nature is beautiful, but nature is also unbiased. Nature will allow whatever that needs to be allowed. Nature is God. So when you leave everything up to nature without the responsibility that free will gave you, which is to be able to interact yourself, then you can't complain when naturally you end up in the situation that you're in. Because naturally you're supposed to be here. This is naturally what you are. This is naturally what you're producing every day. This is naturally what you're thinking about every day. And think of how deep that sounds. Like, wait, so if I do something about it, I'm changing nature? Yes. That's the reflection of the God that we have in us. Yes, we can even change nature. It don't mean we can change the fact that the sun come up or that it becomes night, but we can change what happens under it, within it. You know, we can see the sun differently because we changed ourselves. We can wake up in the morning and now see the world differently. The light hit our skin differently. The warmth absorbs in our body differently. Seriously, I'm not, yo. So, the psychology behind Western civilization's money is no humanity, not much humanity, systemic thinking, and only systemic thinking. That's why it's an issue, because naturally we're all, you know, fall into the level of the systems that we operate in every day. But if you keep humanity, if you build a system that you can keep humanity in, because the foundations of the system was birthed out of the good intentions and the balance that's needed within the world, then you will birth a system that'll produce everything that the world needs. And how will that happen is because the system that you build will inspire other systems to be created to do that same thing. So the same way that capitalism was birthed and it inspired all these different economic engines that we have going on as to why we're in this situation that we're in, you know, financially. There's such a big difference in you know, the wealth hoarded over here and then the people who struggling over there. That's because capitalism birthed so many different ways to go about, you know, doing that. Like it birthed so many different ways of going about making sure that that was going to happen. That hey, these private owners will always hold the majority of profit. But if we can birth another system that births something that creates a balance where it births other systems to help the world. So people, you know, everyone is evolving, everyone is thriving, everyone is interacting with the world in a way that contributes to the world. That right there becomes bigger than economics. It becomes law and order. So I just wanted to hit y'all with that. I just wanted to hit y'all with that. I'm going to keep these videos coming and really look at your life. And if you're somewhere that you don't want to be right now, really genuinely look at what you produced. What do you do on a daily basis without thinking about it? That's your answer right there. What do I do without thinking about it? And as you start thinking about it, you'll start noticing what you do. And then you'll start noticing, like, oh, this is why I'll look up and on a Friday night, I'm just in the house. And I don't mean you got to be clubbing, but why aren't you at in an event that aligns with what it is that you're passionate about? Why aren't you in some type of community that's in line with what it is that you love to do? Something that inspires you. It's because the natural system that you're running is, you know, it's just not, there's no regulation to it. It's just a happening. Like nature. Nature is just a happening. No one has the definite answer as to why all this exists. But we understand that it's a happening. So when you leave your chances up to a happening, then whatever happens is something that you shouldn't argue with, because you didn't do anything to persuade or influence the outcome to go more in your favor. So if you leave it up to chance, that's exactly what happens. There's a chance that this is going to happen, that going to happen, this, that. So start looking at your life, start seeing what natural systems that you've been participating in to get you the results that you got today. Because if you want to make some money, if you look at the world, no one's coming to save you. No one's coming to save you. Elon just became the first trillionaire, and everyone, feels some type of way, this, that, and the other. And that's because they don't understand the system. One, Elon don't have $1 trillion in physical cash. Elon has $1 trillion over his whole portfolio. Elon is a trillionaire with credit. Elon is a trillionaire with debt. As long as he can leverage those two things to continue to make more profit, that's how he's going to win. That's why the net worth keep going up. Because Elon could take $1 trillion today and give everybody a certain amount of money. I'm not going to do the particular math on, what you got to give each person on the earth to, equal up $1 trillion. But I know he could give somebody, everybody on the earth, some type of money and either have just a little bit left or none left. But either or, if he was to do that, what did that solve? Nothing. And it would go to show you how little $1 trillion is to solve our problem. Because that's not the problem. It's not the notes. It's not the money. It's the system. It's not none of that. It's the system. Start thinking in terms of systems. Start questioning the mechanisms of how things work. What do that mean? If you see something, be like, I wonder what took step 1 to lead to step 2 to step 3 to step 4 to produce step 5. Start understanding steps. Oh, I'm struggling in my life. Why am I struggling? What's the first step to struggling? Oh, making bad decisions or being born without the proper information. But step 1 is always going to reveal to you the first level of why you are where you are. And then it's going to take you to step 2 and then step 3. And then you're going to go through these steps. And then eventually, guess what? You now have observation and awareness over a system because you're seeing the steps of what it took to get to where you are today. And now you are in control. You are in CEO mode without ever having to touch money. Because now you can redo this system. Now you can create this system to work to your advantage. Now you can have what you want. So I hope everybody have things. I hope everybody mashing it. I hope everybody living well. I hope everybody is being fly. I hope everybody is being cool. I hope everybody enjoying their family. I hope everybody is just having, peace and love and laughter. And if you smoke ganja, some good green next to you. I hope everybody having whatever it is that they want. But in today's time, in order to get it, you have to become the CEO of your life. You have to become the government of your life. You have to become the bank of your life. You have to become the church of your life. So, the psychology behind Western civilization's money is something that most people isn't ready for because most people value their humanity over materials. So once you understand that, once you are aware of that system, guess what you can do? You can create your own within this system, and then eventually you can detach yourself from this system. So recognize I appreciate y'all for rocking with me. Again, more content is coming out. I'm taking a whole new approach to this. I really like this, what I'm doing right here. So this is pretty much what I'm about to roll it out as, spoken word, just kind of freestyling what it is that I have to say, letting it come out as natural as possible. But again, for anybody who is listening to the end, for any of this information that's valuable, I don't need any money from you, but I do need you to hit that like button. I do need you to subscribe. I need you to share. And comment. Let's create a community. Again, I'm willing always to talk and communicate with people who's, willing to question me, willing to debate me, challenge me, or agree with me. But let's talk. Let's discuss. Let's congregate. So, thank y'all. I love y'all. And remember, check in with that natural system that you're following, because it's going to show you why this step led to that step. All right. Peace and love, presence, and may the game be with you.